Welcome back to my channel. For years, we looked at Meri Brown and saw a woman frozen in time, waiting for love, waiting for validation, waiting for a single scrap of attention from Kody Brown. We labeled her desperate. We called her pitiful. We reduced her to tears, catfishing scandals, and cold silences at family gatherings. A woman pressed against a wall of rejection, begging for a door that would never open. But what if we got it wrong? What if, while Kody was busy playing patriarch in Robin's mansion, hoarding artwork, buying jewelry, and pretending to be a king, Meri was doing something far more dangerous? What if she was building an empire right under his nose? There is a rumor rippling through the Sister Wives universe right now that changes everything we thought we understood about this family. And no, this is not about romance. This is not about reconciliation. This is not about Meri crawling back. This is about revenge. This is about business. And it involves the one man Kody Brown fears more than bankruptcy, more than court, more than public humiliation. David Woolley. Tonight, we are exposing a secret business alliance that could flip the entire power structure of this family upside down. Because the theory is this: Meri Brown is not selling her share of Coyote Pass. She's developing it. With David Woolley's construction expertise, with Meri's capital, with a long memory, and a very sharp ledger. The question is no longer if Coyote Pass changes hands. The question is whether Meri and David are planning to turn that land into a luxury B&B resort, right in Kody Brown's backyard. And the ultimate humiliation? Turning Kody Brown into a tenant on land he once called his kingdom. So grab your tea, because the sleeping giant has woken up, and her name is Meri. Before we dive into this billion-dollar theory, do me one favor. If you want to see Meri take over the mountain and leave Kody in the dust, hit that like button right now. Let's send a message to the algorithm that we are Team Meri. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications, because you do not want to miss a single update as this story unfolds. Now, let's get into the evidence. To understand where we're going, we have to completely rewrite how we see the past. Because for 18 seasons, the narrative around Meri Brown was carefully controlled by Kody. He painted her as baggage, as the wife who wouldn't leave, as the problem child weighed down by the catfish scandal. But it's time to stop looking at the catfish era and start looking at the CEO era. While the other wives were drowning in emotional labor, raising kids, managing chaos, chasing scraps of approval, Meri was doing something else entirely. She was accumulating capital. Let's talk about the LuLaRoe money. Love the company or hate it, the facts remain. Meri Brown was a top-tier seller. We're talking about millions of dollars moving through her accounts over the last decade. She wasn't just selling leggings. She was quietly funding the family pot. For years, Meri's income was the silent engine keeping Kody's lifestyle afloat. While he played leader, she played banker. But the real turning point, the moment the seed for this Coyote Pass takeover was planted, was Lizzie's heritage in. Let's go back to that moment because it matters. Meri found a historic home in Parowan, Utah, a place tied to her ancestors, a place that called to her. She went to Kody and the other wives with hat in hand, asking for a loan from the family funds she herself had poured into for decades. And what did Kody do? He shut her down. He told her there was no money. He told her it was a bad investment. He told her dream wasn't worth backing. That was the moment the switch flipped. That was the moment Meri realized she could succeed in spite of Kody, not because of him. So she scraped. She hustled. She figured it out on her own. She bought the inn and turned it into a profitable, functioning business. She learned hospitality, bookings, customer service, property management, all while Kody was struggling to sell gun accessories at trade shows. Lizzie's heritage inn wasn't a hobby.
It was a proof of concept.
It was Meri proving to herself that she didn't need a patriarch to build a legacy.
And now,
she's sitting on a successful business model, a massive influx of cash, and a plot of land that is essentially a blank check. Which brings us to the geography of failure known as Coyote Pass. To understand why an alliance with David Woolley is so dangerous for Kody, you have to look at the dirt itself. Because the land tells the truth. When the Browns bought Coyote Pass, angels were supposedly singing. It was meant to be the forever compound, the place where they'd grow old together. But the map tells a different story. A story of division. Remember the wars? Trees versus pond. Lot sizes. Views. Boundaries. Kody manipulating everyone into taking the plots he wanted them to have. He wanted the best views. He wanted the barndominium. He wanted a kingdom for his heirs, specifically the heirs he shares with Robin. 5 lots. Total control. But here's the fatal flaw. Kody Brown is land-rich, barely, and cash-poor. For years, Coyote Pass dangled on the edge of disaster. Payoff deadlines loomed. Foreclosure rumors never stopped. The family had to pay off the note or lose everything. And then, suddenly, the land was paid off.
No explanación. No transparency.
Just silence. And that silence is where this theory begins. Kody has been complaining about money for seasons. Robin doesn't work. Janelle and Christine have separated their finances completely. The math does not math. And that's where the whispers begin. Because the theory insiders keep circling back to is this: Meri likely fronted a significant portion of the payoff. And that raises an even more dangerous question. Why would a woman who is leaving the family pour money into land she supposedly plans to walk away from? Unless she isn't leaving the land at all. Unless this wasn't an emotional decision. Unless this was a strategic one. Meri wasn't paying off Coyote Pass for Kody. She was securing her equity. Making sure her name was locked onto that deed. Ironclad. Unshakable. Undeniable. This is where Kody's delusion becomes fatal. He genuinely believes that because he is the man, he controls the destiny of that property. He believes that when the wives leave, they'll quietly sign over their shares out of guilt, exhaustion, or some misplaced sense of loyalty to the family. He's banking on them being too tired to fight. He thinks Meri will fade into Utah, run her in, lick her wounds, and let him keep his kingdom. But Kody Brown has made a catastrophic miscalculation. Because he underestimated the resentment of a woman who was humiliated for years. And more importantly, he underestimated the ambition of a businesswoman. Meri owns a prime piece of that land. And unlike the small residential fantasy Kody keeps pitching, Meri's lot has something far more valuable. They do not have liquidity. And raw land is a money pit.
You don't just build on it.
You have to run utilities, grade roads, bring in water, bring in power. Hundreds of thousands of dollars disappear before you even pour a single foundation. Kody doesn't have it. That's why Coyote Pass has sat untouched for 5 years. He is frozen, paralyzed, a king with no treasury. But Meri? Meri has capital. She has steady income from Lizzie's heritage and she has retail revenue. She has cash flow. And now, possibly, she has something even more dangerous. A partner. Because this story stops being a sad divorce narrative and becomes a high-stakes business thriller the moment we introduce the catalyst. The man who changes the math. The David Woolley factor. Most people see David Woolley and stop at one thing: Christine's husband. The nice guy. The anti-Kody. The man who treats her with respect. And all of that is true. But it's also superficial. David Woolley is not just a romantic lead. He is a blue-collar businessman with decades of experience in construction and drywall. He owns his own company. He understands land development,
Permits. Zoning.
contracting. He speaks the language of building. The language Kody Brown pretends to speak. Kody likes to wear gloves and move logs for the camera. David Woolley actually builds things. Now, consider the psychology. The enemy of my enemy dynamic. Kody despises David. We've seen it. The visceral reaction. David's mere existence challenges Kody's authority. In Kody's mind, David is the man who stole his family. The man raising truly. The man living the life Kody believes he was entitled to. Kody has tried to smear him in interviews. Vague accusations. Thinly veiled bitterness. And David? David has stayed quiet.
No social media wars.
No public mudslinging. But silence does not mean weakness. Privately, David is a protector. He has seen what Kody did to Christine and, by extension, to the other women. He understands systems, power, control. So now I want you to close your eyes and picture the scenario that insiders say is keeping Kody Brown awake at night. Because this is the rumor. This is the nightmare. And this is where the game truly changes.
Picture this.
A quiet lunch.
No cameras. No chaos.
No family gossip. Just strategy. Meri Brown is there.
Christine is there.
And sitting across from them is David Woolley. The topic isn't Kody. It isn't emotions. It isn't the past. It's real estate. Meri unfolds a map of Coyote Pass and lays it flat on the table. She points to one parcel, hers. She explains that the deed is in her name, that it's clean, that it's protected. She explains that she has the capital to invest, but she does not trust Kody's contractors, his delays, or his chaos. And she says the quiet part out loud. I don't want Kody involved. Then she looks at David and asks the question that changes everything. What can we build here? Now, ask yourself, why would David Woolley touch this mess? Why would he step into the radioactive wasteland of Kody Brown's land drama? Yes, David is generous. Yes, he's supportive. But there's a deeper incentive here. This is checkmate. This is how you defend your wife and her friends, not with arguments, but by taking the power away from the bully who hoarded it for decades. It's a business move. But it's also a message. Kody Brown wanted to be the king of Coyote Pass. David Woolley has the tools to build the castle Kody never could. Which brings us to the blueprint. The B&B resort theory. What if Meri isn't building a house for herself at all? What if she's building something commercial? We already know Meri thrives in hospitality. We've seen how tightly Lizzie's heritage in is run. And Flagstaff, Arizona? That is prime territory. It's the gateway to the Grand Canyon. A dark sky city. A ski destination. A magnet for high-end tourism. The demand for luxury lodging is massive. And Meri knows it. Imagine this. Coyote Pass Retreat by Meri Brown. Not a single-family home. Not a quiet little cabin. We're talking high-end glamping yurts. A central lodge built by David's crew. Spaces designed for wellness retreats, workshops, and curated fan experiences. A place where people pay hundreds, sometimes thousands, of dollars to stay on the land made famous by the show. Now, the obvious question. Can she even do that? Here's where Kody's fatal flaw becomes clear. He's obsessed with residential subdivision. 5 lots. 5 houses. His outdated dream. He's trapped in a residential mindset. But rural land has flexibility. With the right permits. The right zoning variances. The right paperwork. And if there is one person who knows how to navigate county clerks, zoning boards, and development loopholes, it's a man who has owned a construction business for decades. If Kody can't build because he's paralyzed by indecision and broke by bad spending, Meri can build because she has a project manager who knows exactly which forms to file and which doors to open. Now, let's talk about the financial structure, because this is where it gets brilliant. Meri contributes the land equity. That's her buy-in. She fronts the initial capital for materials. David contributes labor at cost, or invests cash for a percentage. They split profits 50-50ths. And Kody? Kody gets nothing. He gets to stand in his mansion window and watch the trucks roll in. The cement poured. The frames go up. All on land he called his legacy. And none of it belongs to him. This is the destruction of Kody Brown's ego. But it gets worse for him. Because this isn't just about money. This is the squeeze. If Meri and David develop a commercial or high-density project on her parcel, everything changes. Property values shift. Property taxes skyrocket. Can Kody afford his share of increased taxes if the surrounding land becomes valuable? Probably not. Then there's the HOA factor. In many developments, the party with the most active, improved land ends up setting the tone for the rules. If Meri builds first, Meri controls the environment. Now imagine Kody's living nightmare. This is a man obsessed with privacy. He fled the cul-de-sac because he hated being watched. He wanted isolation with Robin. Now imagine a B&B next door. Strangers driving past his driveway every day. Fans booking stays just to catch a glimpse of the patriarch mowing his lawn. Kody Brown becomes the attraction. He is no longer the king. He is the exhibit. And Meri? Meri is the zookeeper collecting ticket sales. This forces Kody's hand. He cannot live next to his ex-wife's thriving business. He cannot live next to a project built by David Woolley. The humiliation would be unbearable. So he sells. And when he gets desperate, when the debt tightens and the pressure mounts, who's waiting with cash? Maybe Meri. Because maybe the Real plan isn't just to build on one lot. Maybe it's to acquire the entire mountain. And this is where the redemption arc finally clicks. For years, we begged Meri to leave, to walk away. But walking away is exactly what Kody wants. He wants her to disappear so he can pretend he didn't fail her.
Staying.
Building. Succeeding right in his face. That's power. This alliance repairs her bond with Christine. Potentially with Janelle. It reunites the original wives economically and socially, while Kody and Robyn sit isolated on their island of debt. It's narrative justice. Kody told Meri to move to the B&B in Parowan. He tried to exile her. So she brings the B&B to him. She refuses to be exiled. She occupies the space he tried to push her out of, and she makes it profitable. But to fully understand how deep this goes, we have to rewind the tape. Because the seeds of this hostile takeover were planted long before David Woolley ever entered the picture. We need to conduct a forensic analysis of the Coyote Pass land selection process, because it wasn't just a family meeting.
It was a tactical strike.
And most of us missed it. Do you remember the day the angels were supposedly singing? The family stood on that raw land, and Kody was selling them a dream. But if you look closely, Kody wasn't selling a family compound at all. From day one, Kody Brown was never selling a family dream. He was selling a hierarchy. And the division of Coyote Pass was engineered to do one thing very clearly: isolate Meri. We have to talk about the trees versus the pond war, because this was the defining moment that exposed Kody's disdain for his first wife. There was one particular plot, tucked into the trees. Secluded, shaded, quiet. It offered the one thing Meri had been stripped of for years: privacy. Meri looked at that land and saw sanctuary. A place where she wouldn't have to look out her window and watch Kody walk into Robyn's house. A place where she could exist without being constantly reminded of her displacement. She said one simple sentence: "I want the trees." That's it. She was the first wife. In a traditional plural marriage structure, that position comes with status, with seniority, with respect. She should have had first choice. But Kody Brown does not operate on tradition. He operates on favoritism. He immediately shut her down, and what followed was one of the most bizarre displays of gaslighting we've ever seen on reality television. He suddenly became obsessed with maintenance. Pine needles were framed like lethal weapons. Shade became a burden. He tried to convince a grown woman that she wasn't capable of handling trees. But the truth leaked out when he started talking about the pond. That so-called pond, which we now know is essentially a drainage ditch, was Kody's obsession. In his mind, it was a private lake, a centerpiece, a symbol of control. He wanted that land for himself, or more accurately, for the family gatherings he would dominate. When Meri pivoted when she said, "Okay, what about near the pond?" Kody snapped. Suddenly, she was playing games. Suddenly, she was manipulative. Suddenly, she was indecisive. Let's revisit the merry-go-round fight. Kody stood there, hair wild, eyes manic, loudly declaring that Meri was impossible to please. He told the other wives she was exhausting, that nothing made her happy. But look closely at what actually happened. Meri said, "I like the trees." Kody said, "No." Meri said, "Okay, what about the pond?" Kody said, "No, that's mine." Every option she chose was vetoed, until she was cornered, until she was forced into the one plot nobody wanted, the one with the least tree cover, the most road exposure, and the least protection. He wanted her visible, exposed, uncomfortable, He wanted her to feel like a guest on land she helped pay for, not an owner. But here's the irony Kody never saw coming. In trying to punish Meri, he accidentally handed her the most commercially viable parcel on the mountain. The wooded lots? Expensive. Heavily regulated. Clearing them requires environmental approvals and costly labor. The hillside, lots near Robin?
Steep.
The grading alone is a financial nightmare. But Meri's plot? Flat. Accessible. Road frontage. The easiest lot to develop. Kody thought he was giving her the worst piece of land. He actually gave her a turnkey construction site. And 5 years later, that punishment has become the foundation of her return. We also need to talk about the casita insult because it matters. Do you remember when Kody suggested Meri live in a barndominium or a tiny casita while the real houses were being built? He essentially told the woman who helped build his family that she should live in a glorified shed, an accessory dwelling unit, a tenant. That moment burned itself into Meri's psyche. Because now, she's not just building a place to live. She's building something that screams ownership. She's erasing the image of the casita and replacing it with a resort. She's taking the insult and gold-plating it. Now, let's shift gears and talk numbers, because this is where the theory locks into place. Flagstaff is not Las Vegas. Vegas was easy. Cookie-cutter homes. Existing infrastructure. Predictable pricing. Flagstaff is a high-altitude mountain town in the middle of a housing crisis. Cost of living is far above the national average. It's a magnet for second homes, luxury rentals, and wealthy retirees.
Coyote Pass was raw land. No sewer.
No water. No electricity. No gas. Bringing utilities to raw land is one of the most expensive undertakings in real estate. We're talking trenching through bedrock. Massive cistern systems.
Septic tests.
Engineering studies. Impact fees. Kody underestimated these costs by hundreds of thousands of dollars. We saw it on camera, him sitting with surveyors, confused, overwhelmed, detached from reality. He loved the views but never understood the price tag attached to them. To build 4 or 5 massive homes on that property, infrastructure alone could push close to $1 million before a single wall goes up. Kody thought paying off the land was the finish line. It wasn't even the starting gate. Now look at this from a business perspective. A 4,000 square foot mansion for Meri to live in alone? That's a liability. Heating, cooling, insurance, taxes, zero income. But a luxury retreat? That's an asset. High-end vacation rentals in Flagstaff can command anywhere from $500 to $1,500 per night. A main lodge with 4 or 5 luxury suites doesn't just pay for itself. It generates 6-figure annual revenue. And here's the twist. Flagstaff's strict dark sky regulations terrify amateurs like Kody. He sees restrictions, delays, obstacles.
A professional sees branding.
Coyote Pass Dark Sky Retreat. The very rules that paralyzed Kody become exclusive selling points in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing. Now, let's talk lumber, because this is where Kody fully collapses. When he first dreamed of building, lumber prices were stable. Then the pandemic hit. Costs exploded. Supply chains broke. Prices doubled. Kody used that as an excuse to freeze. He waited.
Complained.
Tried to time the market. That's amateur behavior. David Woolley doesn't wait. He has wholesale accounts, contractor pricing, supplier relationships. He knows where to source materials. He has steel connections. He has a crew. Labor is the biggest bottleneck in Flagstaff construction. Contractors are booked years out. Kody has no crew.
No leverí. No callbacks.
David brings his own team. That alone eliminates the general contractor markup, typically 20% of total build cost. By partnering with David, Meri instantly saves 20% and gains access to a labor force Kody can't touch. Kody lives in the fantasy that he can build with gloves and ego. David Woolley owns the machinery. And that brings us to the final question. Why does the idea of Meri building trigger Kody so deeply? Why does it paralyze him? Because it forces him to confront the truth he's spent years avoiding. Meri was never the weak one. She was the one he had to control because if she ever stood on her own, his entire kingdom would collapse. Here's the truth Kody Brown doesn't want to face. Land ownership is central to his masculinity. In Kody's worldview, the patriarch provides the land and the wives live on it under his protection. That's how he defines power. That's how he defines worth. That's how he defines himself as a man. So if Meri develops Coyote Pass without him, using another man's expertise, it doesn't just embarrass him. It castrates his role as provider. It proves that he was the bottleneck all along. The zoning issues, the utility costs, the subdivision drama, those weren't insurmountable barriers. They were excuses. Excuses for incompetence. Excuses for fear. Excuses for a man who talked like a builder but never actually built anything. If Meri breaks ground, the sound of that excavator won't just be construction noise. It will be the sound of Kody Brown's failure. Every nail David Woolley drives into a beam on Coyote Pass is a direct challenge to Kody's ego. Kody wants to be the king, but a king cannot rule land where a tenant is richer, more capable, and more respected than he is.
He wants subjects,
not competitors. And make no mistake, if Meri builds a resort, she becomes a competitor. She isn't just developing land. She's competing for the legacy of the Brown name. She's claiming the story of Coyote Pass and adding an asterisk, the Browns minus Kody. Now, let's move into what I call the mock trial portion of this analysis. Because if Meri starts building a commercial venture, Kody will absolutely try to stop her. He will threaten lawsuits. He will cry betrayal. He will frame it as a violation of family agreements. But here's the problem. What legal ground does he actually have? The Coyote Pass deeds have been reshuffled more times than a deck of cards, but the key fact remains. Meri holds legal title to her parcel.